In 2026, attention didn't explode. It aligned. Without an announcement, without a single defining headline, the same name began appearing across fashion, film, global branding, and cultural institutions. Not all at once, but consistently enough to feel intentional. And that consistency changed how influence was measured. Fashion, film, tourism, sportswear, global events, music, and live entertainment all began circling the same name, not because she was chasing visibility, but because visibility was reorganizing itself around her. Lisa Manoban didn't just stay relevant in 2026. She became unavoidable. And the way it happened tells a much bigger story about how influence works now. For years, celebrity success was measured by volume. More appearances, more posts, more interviews, more noise. But this year challenged that model. What stood out about Lisa wasn't overexposure. It was restraint. She appeared exactly where it mattered, and nowhere it didn't. And each appearance carried weight beyond aesthetics or fandom. It carried strategic value. Early in the year, global attention sharpened around her presence at the Golden Globes. Not because of controversy or spectacle, but because of what it represented. This wasn't a music award show. It wasn't a K-pop-centric space. It was a legacy Hollywood institution signaling something deeper about cultural relevance. Her presence didn't feel like a guest spot. It felt like a recalibration of who global entertainment now considers central. At the same time, her career trajectory was expanding in parallel directions that rarely align so cleanly. Film was no longer a side experiment. Her role in the Netflix action project Tygo marked a clear commitment to long-form storytelling and global distribution. Netflix doesn't invest casually at that level. Projects like this are built around international reach, long-term licensing value, and audience crossover. Lisa wasn't being tested. She was being positioned. Fashion, meanwhile, wasn't just dressing her. It was building around her. Her continued relationship with Louis Vuitton reached a new phase with the spring-summer 2026 season, where her presence felt less like endorsement and more like alignment. Luxury brands measure success in perception shifts, not just sales spikes. What Lisa brings is a bridge between heritage and future consumers, especially Gen Z and emerging global markets that now define long-term revenue growth. Then there was Nike, a move that, on the surface, looks like a brand partnership, but underneath signals something more calculated. Nike's global ambassador strategy focuses on cultural translators, not just athletes or entertainers. It's about who can carry values across borders, industries, and identities. By aligning with Lisa, Nike wasn't chasing trend. It was investing in relevance across the influence economy, where lifestyle, movement, and storytelling intersect. Around this point, something subtle became clear. These weren't random wins stacked together. They were synchronized. Tourism entered the picture when she was appointed as an ambassador for Thailand's 2026 Global Tourism Campaign. That decision wasn't symbolic. Tourism boards operate on data, forecasting, and international behavior patterns. They don't choose faces lightly. They choose trust. Lisa represents modern Thailand to the world in a way that blends heritage with global fluency, and that has real economic implications. As the year unfolded, the pattern intensified. Fashion weeks, film sets, global campaigns, and then moments that seemed small but weren't. Like her winter getaway, shared casually, wrapped in snow and calm. It wasn't staged. It wasn't promotional in the obvious sense. But it reminded audiences of something powerful, relatability without dilution. Brands pay close attention to that balance, because it sustains long-term brand value better than constant hype. Midway through the year, anticipation quietly built around her role connected to the Met Gala. Hosting isn't about visibility. It's about trust and authority. It signals that institutions recognize not just popularity, but cultural leadership. By this point, the question was no longer why Lisa was everywhere. It was how she managed to be everywhere without exhausting the audience. The answer lies in strategy. Modern influence isn't about saturation. It's about sequencing. Each move reinforced the last without repeating it. Film added narrative depth. Fashion added symbolic power. Sportswear added lifestyle credibility. Tourism added national significance. Live performances and Blackpink's 2026 concert momentum added scale and emotional connection. Together, they formed a portfolio, not a publicity run. This is where the business layer becomes unavoidable. What Lisa represents now is an asset class. Brands don't just collaborate with her for exposure. They collaborate for positioning. Her presence shifts perception, and perception drives revenue. That's why global companies align with her across different verticals instead of competing for a single lane. She doesn't dilute brands. She sharpens them. There's also discipline in what she doesn't do. No rushed product launches. No forced controversy. No constant commentary. In an era where attention is monetized aggressively, restraint becomes a competitive advantage. Entrepreneurs understand this instinctively. So do investors. Sustainable growth outperforms spikes. And Lisa's 2026 proves that cultural capital compounds when managed carefully. The turning point isn't a single event. It's the realization that influence itself has evolved. Power no longer shouts. It signals. And those signals, when consistent, attract institutions, capital, and opportunity organically. That's why multiple industries moved toward her at once. They weren't following hype. They were responding to alignment. By the time the year settled into its rhythm, the narrative was clear without ever being stated outright. Lisa Blackpink wasn't chasing the global market. The global market was adjusting around her. Fashion houses, film studios, tourism boards, sports brands, and global events don't synchronize by accident. They move when someone embodies where culture is going next. What makes this moment compelling isn't just success. It's intention. Lisa's 2026 shows that growth doesn't require constant explanation. It requires clarity. Knowing when to step forward. Knowing when to stay intentional. Knowing which partnerships build long-term equity and which ones simply add noise. That clarity is what separates momentum from chaos. In an era where visibility is often mistaken for value, Lisa's trajectory in 2026 quietly pushes back against that idea. Her presence feels measured, not scattered. Each appearance carries intention, and each collaboration reinforces a broader narrative rather than distracting from it. This is why her influence doesn't feel temporary or trend-based. It feels constructed. You can see it in how different industries respond to her. Fashion doesn't treat her as a seasonal face, but as a long-term asset. Film doesn't frame her involvement as a novelty, but as a strategic expansion into global storytelling. Tourism, branding, and live performance don't chase her name for hype, but for credibility and reach. That kind of alignment only happens when brand value is protected with discipline. What's happening here is bigger than personal popularity. It's a case study in positioning. Lisa isn't trying to dominate every headline. She's allowing timing to do the work. That restraint creates scarcity, and scarcity creates leverage. In business terms, it's the difference between short-term exposure and long-term equity. One fades quickly, the other compounds. There's also a mindset shift embedded in how she moves through 2026. Instead of reacting to trends, she's operating ahead of them. Each decision feels like an investment, not a gamble. Marketing becomes quieter but more effective. Revenue opportunities become fewer but more meaningful. Partnerships stop being about reach alone and start being about alignment, shared vision, and future growth. Halfway through the year, it becomes clear that this isn't accidental. There's a rhythm to how her influence expands, pauses, and expands again. That rhythm keeps audiences curious and industries attentive. It also sends a subtle message to entrepreneurs and creators watching closely. Growth doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It needs to be intentional. As 2026 continues, Lisa's presence feels less like a series of moments and more like a sustained direction. A long game built on trust, credibility, and global awareness. And that's why her impact doesn't just register in culture, but in strategy rooms, board discussions, and brand forecasts. Because when influence is managed this way, it stops being entertainment alone and starts becoming infrastructure. For audiences, this story resonates because it feels earned. For brands, it's instructive. For entrepreneurs, it's a reminder that the strongest strategies are often quiet, patient, and precise. Influence isn't about being everywhere. It's about being undeniable where it counts. And as this year continues to be analyzed, studied, and referenced, one thing becomes harder to ignore. In 2026, power doesn't look loud anymore. It looks composed. It looks intentional. It looks global without trying to prove it. If this perspective changed how you see influence, strategy, or success today, stay tuned and keep watching closely. There's always more happening beneath the headlines. For the latest insights on Lisa Blackpink and how her moves are shaping fashion, film, and global branding, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and follow along. Share your thoughts in the comments. What part of Lisa's 2026 journey surprised you most? Let's dive into this strategy together. Thanks for watching.